This is the Ring of Honor, a.k.a. Shane T, boy, the baddest champion you ever seen, boy.
This is Mr. Anderson.
This is good old JR Jim Ross, and you are listening.
You're listening to Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Cover! We got a new world champion!
That might be one of the craziest knockouts I've ever seen in my life.
Knockouts and 3 Counts is the podcast, baby! It's the real deal, baby!
Knockouts and 3 Counts starts now.
What up, no part 2, because if you guys were already watching and hit that subscribe button, and you just saw that badass interview that we just had with Jake Chris talking all things Circle 6 Catalyst going down this Friday at the Jam Handy in Detroit and going to be on pay-per-view on Fight TV. So I am very much so looking forward to that. Thank you guys for all the questions. I don't think we would have gotten into the story that kind of stole the show, and that was Jake getting into the story of telling about him saving a man from a fire in a burning car. So can't not
pretty wild shit, man.
Yeah, you're not kidding. What up, Donald? We were just filling those in who are going to watch this in separate about our interview with Jake Chris.
Donald being in these comments, man, because I know we got a lot to talk about from this weekend, and it's always nice to have Donald's input on that shit. So
yes,
Donald, can't wait to have a beer this Friday, pal.
And then Bruce coming in the hot, dude, talking about Cyril Gahn as a dirty back of the head puncher. Well, Bruce, we're gonna get into your thoughts and our thoughts and everything when it comes to UFC Paris and AEW All Out and WWE Clash at the Castle and all that shit that happened this weekend, because it was a lot of shit.
AEW
like there was
a
lot of
Fallout, all out. You see what I did there?
J-Bone trying to get you with the rhymes over here. You know who else can get you with the rhymes? The homie Mega Ran, man, who's going to be having his show here this Saturday, September 10th. Knockouts and 3 Counts is about to be in the building at a lot of places this weekend, huh?
Yeah, man.
We are all over. We are all over.
Fuck yeah, we are in the building out here. Hey, yo, Brock, you got to go and check out our interview with Jake Chris, man. I know you know about wrestling and Impact Wrestling. We were talking about how Mr. Chris told us about him saving a man from a burning car. But, Brock, I know you're in the Detroit area. Are you coming to Circle 6 Catalyst, bro? You got to be in the building to see this hybrid ladder match. And, I mean, if you're trying to come through, man, you got to get at me, my guy. Like I said, we're the proud sponsors of that show. We got to get you in the building. I know Devin's going to be coming through. I plan on coming through. Donald is going to be there. Let's see. I'm going to be honest. I didn't watch AEW. I did watch 2 of the GCW shows. War Games match was good. The rest of the card was okay. And the IWTV show was a complete joke. Damn, Donald's always be coming in with the hot takes.
Shooting the
like,
fire, man.
Damn.
Uh-huh.
Like we weren't even 3 minutes into the interview with Jake Chris. We aren't 5 minutes into our breakdown of AEW All Out. And Donald is already letting the zingers fly. Yes, we will be talking about GCW and we will be talking about AEW.
Well, are we starting with AEW? That is
well, I feel like we kind of have to start on the wrestling, and especially with me being in Chicago.
Well, that leads into, because I was going to ask you the next question. How does it compare just trip wise in enjoying your Chicago stay compared to our mini vacation that was last year?
Okay, so I think all in all, it was more fun because last year may have been a tad more fun only because I had you there and Ryan McKinnell, who, hey, if you guys are Busted Open fans or fans of Sirius XM, you should be watching or listening Busted Open. But you can go back and check out our show with Ryan McKinnell where we made our posts. And speaking of Clash at the Castle, we told you. Well, I told you somebody might lose a nipple. And can I just say, J-Bone can confirm for me. I was not lying. If you look at Sheamus's chest after that, he may have not lost a nipple, but his chest
pretty damn close.
Was pretty fucked up. and Gunther or Walter or whatever you want to call him at this point wasn't looking that much better. So I'm just saying, I told you so, and I told you before they ever got in the ring. I mean, J-Bone, do you think I'm too far out of the range by saying that would be one I would recommend for Cory to watch? Because, I mean, dude, they beat the fuck out of it.
It had it all. It had your wrestling. It had your fighting. I don't care what you call it. That was a fight, dude.
That was a fucking fight, dude. Those two beat the shit out of each other, and those are two big-ass men.
Loud thuds, lariats, chops. It had it all, dude. Very physical. Probably could, honestly, out of all the matches, that might have been my top match of the weekend. I was very, I expected it though. You know what I mean? We talked about that, Kyle. I almost expected that match. We all knew it was going to be a banger. It was just a little more than I personally expected. It was great, man. Way to bring prestige back to that IC title, man.
I was going to say, yes.
That's interesting though that you guys bring that matchup, being that was not the event that you were at, Kyle. And so that being said, is that your match of the weekend, or was it one that you were in attendance for?
I like when he takes his time. I like when he takes his time. I know he's really thinking. Oh, his gears are turning.
Honestly, no. My match of the weekend is going to be a match that neither one of you are going to guess at. J-Bone, you might know because we were talking about this on the way home. But no, I would say in most circumstances that one could. I mean, that match really could still steal match of the weekend. Like, I'm not kidding. Like, Cory, I'm dead ass serious. Like, I really kind of want you to watch that, and I want to hear what your thoughts are on it. But my match of the weekend probably would have to be the Acclaimed versus Swerve in Our Glory for the tag titles. Because, man, that fucking crowd was just insane. And that match, I'm not going to lie, there were about 3 or 4 different times where I'm like, dude, the Acclaimed is taking the fucking belts off them tonight. And
I thought so.
And Swerve and them still got the dub, dude. Like, for me, that I mean, between crowd reaction and just the roller coaster that was that match, oh my God, dude, that match was fucking insane.
You know, one thing about that match that I did like was the fact that Swerve and Keith Lee played to the crowd. They didn't come out there face or heel. They seen what was happening with that crowd and the way that crowd was reacting for the Acclaim, and they played to it. They adjusted on the fly to make you just hate them a little bit. Not enough to put them as quote-unquote heels, but just make you hate them for that match. You just wanted to see the Acclaim pull it off, and it went the other way. But keep going. I'm sorry.
No. I agree completely. And that was part of what made that match, dude. So fucking, I mean, it was just so back and forth, man. You're like, oh my God, like, I don't know who the fuck is going to win. Like, I mean, you're not lying. Brock, you're telling the truth. And if from inside the building, dude, like, people were literally sitting there like, I thought that the Acclaim were going to get it because, man, that crowd was pro-Acclaimed 100%.
Yeah, and that really speaks to how you were pumping up Swerve, a year and a half ago or whatever it was now, where you were saying when he wasn't getting the shine that he was, obviously capable of deserving. And now to see him actually being able to put on matches like this, it kind of speaks to what you had seen, back then.
Yeah. Hey, did you get a Scissor Me Daddy ass T-shirt?
I mean, I fucking thought, bro.
From what I read at one point, it was the hottest selling shirt.
It was the hottest selling shirt. Scissor me, daddy ass. It was a whole ass chant,
a quote that is taking over the wrestling world.
Dude, like, and the best part of it is, oh my God. So there was this older guy that apparently used to be a wrestler that was sitting like right next to me, and his girlfriend like clearly was not a wrestling fan. It was just kind of there because she wanted to have a good time and shit. And so like we're trying to like explain stuff, and she's like, I thought scissoring was a thing that girls do. I thought that was like a lesbian thing. And I'm like, and he's trying to explain to her like, no, it's like a whole thing. And then And then it was funny because of where I was sitting, which, if you're following us at KO3C Pod, which you should have been all along, because like I said, I mean, we were giving you guys free chances at tickets to Circle 6 Catalyst, which you guys need to be at this Friday. But if you look at where I was sitting, they had to walk right back to like where I was at, like the side of the ramp where, like, if you're not the one who wins, who usually walks back up through the tunnel, you know, they walk around the side. And as they come back through, like, Bowens is like scissoring everybody. Him and Billy Gunn, for Christ's sake, are like scissoring everybody as they go through, instead of clapping hands with people, they're fucking scissoring people as they go around the way. And this lady's just looking at it like, what the fuck, man?
Gotta love it. Only professional wrestling, dude.
It definitely was. And I mean, to get back to your point, Corey, I mean, I as far as like All Out as a whole, I think I had more fun last year because it was me, you, and McKinnell watching it together. But the trip was dope because, like I said, we were with Uncle Chase, who, shout out to Uncle Chase. You know, for those of you who don't know, I mean, dude, he had one hell of a run trying to even get there to have his fucking match because his bus got delayed and he missed his match, and then they needed time, so on 15 minutes notice he wrestled past guest of the show, Gringo Loco's partner ASF, and then had a banger. And then the next morning we had to be up at 9 a.m. to go to Effy's Big Gay Brunch 5. Which he was in. Man, you know, this guy's got like a thing for scramble matches. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, he can't never just get a one-on-one match. They have to like I mean, that might have to be a new moniker for this guy, because the way that they keep stacking the odds against this dude, I mean, every time I see him, I feel like he's in a fucking scramble match.
He does a good job of showcasing himself in them, though. Every clip and stuff that I see him post on his social media, because you're right, for the most part, everything I do see, he's taking on more than one man at once, if you know what I'm saying. But yeah, it's definitely he definitely does his thing while being able to showcase his skills.
Master of the scramble match, dude.
I mean, dude, like I said, it was great to get to see. It was great to get to see Chase do his thing. Like Donald said a little bit earlier, I mean, the War Games match was dope at GCW. I don't know how much of a War Games match it was, because it was like 5 tag teams in there instead of like the 5-on-5. At that point, it's kind of like a big cage match. But it was cool to be there. It was dope to see it. Nick Gage getting in the ring right before War Games was dope. I'm interested to see what happens with him and Moxley going forward. But we talked a little bit about AEW. J-Bone, you watched it from home. What were your thoughts on the optics? What were your thoughts on the sound of the crowd? And is there anything you guys were wondering about? If there's anything that you guys were wondering watching AEW and wanted to know what was going on in the crowd, let me know in the comments, and I will see if I can answer any of those.
I know you had passed it.
Oh,
sorry.
I
know you had passed it to J-Bone, but I do have one quick question, because I feel like that was something that stood out from last year, at least for me, being more of the casual wrestling fan. Who was the one that night that got the pop? Who was the loud entrance? Who was the one that really had the crowd in their hand throughout the night? Even if it's more than one, who's the guys?
Well, I mean, it's kind of hard not to say that it's CM Punk, because we were in Chicago. Like, Chicago will rock with that guy regardless of what he does, what he says, if he wins, if he loses. Chicago will rock with CM Punk, and the fact that he won the title back, yeah. But obviously, I would be lying. You know, Brock is saying it here in the comments. Here you go. The MJF return, the crowd reaction in Chicago was ridiculous. You're not kidding. And I will say this. You hear me talk about a lot on the show about liking there to be like a story told, right? So they had the casino ladder match, which we didn't know who the last person was going to be. The last person comes out, has a mask on their head, and then all these guys who unmask themselves to be the ass boys or Billy Gunn's kids. You got all the Big Cass or W. Morrissey is in there. You got all these guys that have been getting these cards from Stokely Hathaway, only to figure out that it was MJF behind the whole thing because the lights go out. This guy comes out as the last person. They pull down the fucking poker chip and hand it to him. Now he has won the casino ladder match, but we didn't know who it was. Then you get to the end of the night. The lights go out. An old CM Punk promo from Ring of Honor starts playing on the screen. And then it cuts to a phone call from Tony Khan to MJF and saying, I will swallow a big pill if you're willing to show up at AEW for the betterment of our fans and blah, blah, blah. And then it cuts. And then it goes to this video of him taking the mask off his head slowly. And it's MJF. And then he walks out there, doesn't say a word, just motions towards the title. I think we've all been wondering where MJF was. We were wondering how much was going into what happened with everything we had heard with, the promo that he cut and him not being on TV since then. Dude, that shit was dope.
Big time. Huge moment right there, dude. And like I said,
anybody who was watching, what were your thoughts on MJF's return?
Watching it on TV, dude, you kind of knew what was going to happen. But hearing it on TV, totally different story, dude. That's one of those pops that just put a smile on your face like, wow. Like they did it right. You know what I mean? At first, when the Joker thing happened, I was like, if it's not MJF, it's going to be bad. But since it was, and like Brock said, the pop that he got in Chicago when he's coming out, and CM Punk, Mr. Chicago, is standing in the ring.
And just won the world title. That was something special, dude. Like I said, that's one of those wrestling moments. And like I always say, I'm always about the wrestling moments, dude. That's one of those moments that's going to stick with AEW forever because that was something special, dude. Not to mention the fact that he's flipping off the crowd and they're still cheering him. They're still cheering this guy. Like, this is one of those guys, man. Like, a la Stone Cold Steve Austin. You don't get to choose anymore. We're gonna like you, and that's just is what it is. We like that you're an asshole. So we like that you're an asshole. It makes us like you better.
That's how it goes.
So, what were some of the other things that stuck out to you, man, watching it on TV? Because, I mean, like I said, the match that sticks out to me as far as, not that I didn't think that all the matches on the card would be good, but, I mean, really, when you talk about matches that stuck out, dude, the Acclaim versus Swerve and them really was the one that stuck out just because of the match itself. I will say that...
you're my bad.
I was just going to... Jake's, you owe me a soda, bitch!
From home, I tweeted this out from home when Jungle Boy and Christian Cage was about to start. That was one of the matches I've been waiting to see. I was ready for the payoff and everything. What was it like there when Luchasaurus came out and did the big turn? Was the crowd into that? Was it like did we know that was coming? Were there people cheering? I mean, personally, I was cheering from home because I like Luchasaurus as a heel, but we'll get into that some other time. But was people upset?
He didn't beat him clean, Brock. He didn't beat him clean. He hit him in the balls. No. So here's the thing. That was what I was actually kind of getting into. So I guess us, you still owe me a soda. Us finishing each other's sentences. So here's the thing. When you look at the clock and you realize, oh shit, we still have this and this and this and this and this still to go. You know, Brock is talking about Danielson versus Jericho. I mean, when that got in the ring, it was 11 o'clock. Mm-hmm. Like when it's 11 o'clock and that's still getting in the ring, and you right before that you had the women's championship match that still had to go, and then you had the main event, which was going to be Moxley versus Punk, which you knew was going to go for a while.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like honestly, my thought in the arena is, son of a bitch, something's going to have to get its time cut. And then look what happened. We didn't never really have a match between Christian and Jungle Boy. So I wonder if they went into it knowing. I wonder if they went into it knowing that that was kind of how things were going to play out, or if that was a a plan from the beginning. Now, that being said, make sure you're staying tuned to our social medias, because I do have the clip of Luchasaurus choke slamming him on the stage, because it was literally right 5 feet in front of me.
Pretty rough.
But yeah, man, and that was the thing that was crazy, because where we were sitting, like I said, the way they came back, like Kip Sabian came back after his match with Pac, and him and this guy are getting into it, and he takes the box off his head, and he's like, I suck? No, your mother sucks, and she wasn't even that good at it, and is just getting at this guy. And then when FTR comes back, they hopped the wall and came into the crowd where we were at too. So like it was the energy was definitely there in that arena for sure. My big thing, dude, is it's crazy to think like good question, Brock. Do I think Tony overbooked the show? In any other case, I would say yes, except for the fact that they only run 4 pay-per-views a year. Mm-hmm. Like, with the fact that they only do 4 pay-per-views a year, I understand why they would be longer. That being said, I think there needs to be consideration for that taken into it when you think about some of the stories that didn't get to completely be finished. And I mean, to be honest, I think the tale of this show, even though what's crazy about it is that it's the first $1 million house and the second biggest show in AEW's history. And unfortunately, I am almost worried that the stuff that happened after the show and the post-show media scrum is going to be what's remembered more from All Out than what we saw. Because, I mean, holy hell, we went off the air with Chicago losing their mind because CM Punk won the title. To once that happened, you're just like, I had Mega Ran texting me talking about, oh my God, dude, you need to look at this. And here's the thing, I was supposed to be in that media scrum. And then to hear all of that stuff, you're just like, holy shit. And I mean, we're not talking about the stuff for a few minutes. So we'll get into that. We'll get into that in the overall cloud that it puts over the show as a whole. But, another big thing that sticks out to me from that show, what were your guys' thoughts on what we saw from one Malachi Black, man? There were all the stories going into it about how he'd asked for his release and all those things. And then they had their match. And then we saw him kind of bow to the crowd and then walk out hugging the House of Black. I mean, they had a badass match too.
That was a banger match, dude.
They had a badass match. It was them versus Sting, Darby Allin, and Miro, which is an oddball team. But bro, like,
match.
I mean, dude, that match was badass.
Yeah, and we didn't get to see that on TV though, Kyle. We didn't get to see that on pay-per-view. The Malachi.
Yeah,
Black
well, I did. That shit was right in front of me. That
right.
shit was wild.
So,
and the first thing that you're thinking of is that.
Yeah, exactly. It really puts that kind of in your head, like, okay, maybe this is it. But I mean, I don't know the status of his contract, but hey, man, more power to him. If you're not happy, you gotta go. That's just how it is. And we're gonna talk a little bit about that too. What I seen Brock just say. I'm ready to talk about that when you guys are, man. I got a lot to say about that shit, but.
Well, do you think, is there anything else that I want to know from you? I mean, you were watching from home. I mean, what were some of the other matches that really stuck out to you? Jericho versus Danielson was one for me that I was very, very, very much so looking forward to going into it.
Yeah.
Number one, I do like the attention to detail that we see in AEW sometimes with the fact that they got Rob Zombie's theme, for him to come out to the ring, because that was his theme when he was Lionheart, Chris Jericho, and ECW. I really enjoyed that. I thought that was dope. Like, the little things with it were cool. And Bryan Danielson had quite the entrance, I don't know who the fuck that guy was, but he was performing him out to the ring. I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's what he looked like. He looked like, I mean, not that MGK is like muscled up, but he looked like a skinny MGK. But I mean, hey, the
skinny MGK.
Skinnier MGK.
I was gonna say, how that so you're talking skeleton walked him out. Skeletor is what you're telling me.
It was.
I mean, hey, it was a cool entrance. I like that they tried to hype it up, as we know All Out is like the biggest show of the year for AEW. So, I mean, it's I liked that they both had some, like theme to their entrance and stuff. But I thought that match would have been a little bit longer. Again, I wonder if that one kind of got crunched because of time, or what the real story with that one was. But again, I think Jericho and Danielson again showed why they're two of the best in the world. And it was funny because, again, the lady who was sitting next to us is like talking about, oh my God, Jericho's 50 years old. He needs to be out of the ring, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, really, Jericho and Danielson have been putting out some of the best shit I've seen them do in AEW. And I mean, I, for one, was very much so looking forward to that, especially with the fact of it being, the first time they'd ever gone at it. But that being said, I kind of was surprised there wasn't more involvement from Daniel Garcia in that match.
Me too. I thought that he would have been involved some way, somehow, but the whole I asked you not to cheat thing, that's going to play into something later on, I think. And that's another thing I like about AEW, man. Everything that we watch and everything that we get out of these pay-per-views, I feel like it's always trickling into something else. You know what I mean? There's never they never leave us with nothing. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. Other places tend to do that a lot, but they never leave us with nothing.
But WWE's been doing a good job of keeping up with that too. I mean, look what we saw at Clash of the Castle with Solo Sikoa coming up from NXT to help Roman Reigns at Clash of the Castle. I guarantee you the majority of the regular WWE audience didn't know who the fuck that was.
Right.
But that's another thing that we've seen different in the Triple H era, is you hear them talking about, this is Solo Sikoa from NXT, he's one of the Usos brothers, or talking about how people were NXT champions, or like with Shayna Baszler versus Liv, how they're talking about how she had her championship reigns. But, to get back to AEW, like I said, all in all, I thought it was a good show. I think they ran into some problems. I don't know what we see next for Malachi Black, but I mean, watching it in the arena, that's pretty safe to say that's what it looked like was going on from that. I don't know, man. It sucks because, especially with him just leaving there. But then again, there's all these reports already of people wanting to go back to NXT and WWE with Triple H being over there, and Bobby Fish from the Undisputed Elite has already left AEW. So, who knows, dude? I feel like the next few months, as far as AEW goes, are going to be very interesting to kind of see how it goes out. And it's crazy that we're about to get into talking about what happened after AEW All Out, because, dude, CM Punk versus Jon Moxley was a great match.
Yeah.
I thought.
Banger match, dude. Physical, bloody. I liked it, dude. It had the wrestling psychology. The ending obviously was great with everything with MJF, everything leading into that. Perfect main event. Honestly, I wasn't expecting much considering the way it all went down the previous week with the title change.
Hell, the way it started, it almost looked like Punk was going to beat Moxley in a few minutes.
Exactly. So I was like, whoa, but great show, great main event. Rather long. I liked watching that one from home. I can only imagine how it was sitting there you had to have been sitting there, 5 hours ish? Considering
started at about six. So 6 till about 5.5 hours.
Yeah. See, I'd rather be sitting on my couch because those seats are not the most comfortable, but
still nothing will be. And when I say worse, I'm grateful to have ever had the opportunity to go to a WrestleMania. I just want to throw that out there, especially since we're coming out of a pandemic. But it can't top being at a WrestleMania for 8 hours straight, especially when it starts raining.
Rough, man. Yeah.
Just saying. But I know you said you want to get into it, so J-Bone, I will I will let you go into it first. What are your thoughts on what happened after AEW All Out? And again, for those who don't know, things went way left in the CM Punk post All Out media scrum, and they're sometimes there's things that need to just be stayed out of, but at this point CM Punk has they were put out there at this point, and it's all out in the open and it's out in the media, so it's not like something that's been hidden. So I mean, what are your thoughts on and those of you guys who are watching, what were your thoughts on what we saw after AEW All Out, and do you think that it overshadowed what was a great show from AEW? What up, Joey? I know you are just getting in here. If you didn't get to check it out, you got to check out the interview with Jake Chris, man. He told some great stuff, even the story of saving a guy from a burning car. Dude, it was a great show. Definitely got to check that out if you missed it. Brock, I see you here in the comments. Is it just me, or is Mox looking like... Oh, dude, Mox is that guy, dude. Like, Mox is money for AEW. He has been like the MVP.
Hey, I'd go as far as to say as Mox is the face
Chris
of
Jericho.
AEW.
I wouldn't argue that. I mean, he's really picked up the torch, and even if you want to go farther, since Cody's left, I mean, I would definitely say Mox has been up there, especially with Kenny being gone too.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely,
Mox definitely has been stepped up for sure. Joey, we were just talking about All Out and CM Punk and John Moxley, and how I thought the match with the Acclaim may be my favorite match of the weekend. We're about to get into what happened after All Out, so I'd like to know what your thoughts were with that. Okay, so you've watched the entire media scrum. What were your thoughts? I told you about it the day after, but I assume you've gotten to watch it all, J-Bone. What are your thoughts on the media scrum? And what do you guys think that it overshadowed what was a really great show? And if you were Tony Khan, how are you feeling about this shit?
Dude, honestly, it's super unfortunate, man. And it just goes to show how young this company is still. Keep in mind, we're only 3 years, 2 years, whatever it is. But dude, very unprofessional. Listen, I am a CM Punk guy. I go to bat for this dude. I listen to people talk shit about him. I listen to people give him praise. He's part of the reason me and you connected via social media, because I'm pretty sure it was All Out last year. We were posting about the CM Punk return. I love that guy. But the fact that the dude went on that rant at that particular time, everybody's watching, everybody's in there. Your boss is to your left. And if that's any sign of disrespect to your company or your boss, you're sitting there eating a fucking muffin, first of all. You're at a media scrum and you're fucking choking down whatever it is. You're choking down fucking pastries while people are asking you questions. Like, come on, dude. Like, right then and there, if I'm the boss, I'd say, you know what? Punk don't need no questions right now. Just go. Because right there, you can already tell you're not in the right mind frame. And one thing, and as everybody knows, is going to set him off.
It started way before the brownie ever came out.
Right. Right. So, and it wasn't even a question as far as I know. He just recognized the guy that used to hang out with Colt Cabana, do improv, and it just set him off in some way, shape, or form. And he goes on this rant, which shouldn't have been a public rant. Exactly. Tony Khan should have said, hey, this is not what's going to happen here. We're not going to comment on these matters. This take the Clash at the Castle press conference versus the All Out media scrum. Night and day. Professional. These guys know what they're doing. These guys don't. Tony Khan was a deer caught in the headlights, dude. He had no balls to sit there and say, hey, he didn't even tell the reporters, no, let's not talk about that. And he went off.
To be fair, I do think you and I talked about this too. Like, I do think so. That's the thing where it's definitely a blurred line with wrestling, because obviously, like an MMA scrum, these guys fought and it was what it was. People said what they did and it was what it was. But when somebody goes that far out of left field, when it's different. But that being said, I do think that as media, you need to be mindful of some of the stuff that comes up because from everything that I've seen from the media scrum, like nobody even really asked a question about Colt Cabana, and like CM Punk opened the whole thing with, hello, Nick, didn't you used to be friends with Scott Colton? Like, I don't know what that had anything to really do with any of the stuff. And then it just went left from there. Like talking about a man's bank account with his mother but then here's the thing that's more interesting to me out of it is like, okay, that shit I feel like was all left. And you know what? He's never really spoken out a whole ton about it. So like I could see, like frustration boiling over, and you said your point, whatever. Here's the thing. When you got to the point where you're calling the EVPs dumb fucks, meaning the Young Bucks, and you're calling the biggest baby face other than yourself empty-headed fuck, and all these things, like now you're just shitting all over the company. And then like when you think about it in this sense, the Bucks are EVPs. Well, Tony Khan appointed them EVPs. So now you're saying you quote work with fucking children. Well, I mean, Tony Khan appointed those children. So at a certain point, Tony Khan has to be looking at that like, look, bro, like I am the boss of this place. And if you're going to go out and be shitting on my decisions, like, I don't know, man. It's just, that's like tough.
Said, deer in the headlights. He was a deer in the headlights up there.
Yeah.
He had no balls at the time, bro. I'm sorry. That is what it is.
That's a perfect analogy for it, because being the other man on the stage with the microphone, he definitely should have stepped in and intervened at some point. There's multiple points where he could have and should have without even being rude and interrupting. He just could have jumped in and said, hey, on to the next topic, on the next question, whatever the case be. That's not what we're discussing tonight. We just wrapped up an amazing pay-per-view. Can we ask poignant questions to what just took place, any of the like? But to your point, it really was, he was like, I don't know how to, okay, I guess he's just gonna keep, all right, well, I guess keep going. And then he just it wasn't a good look for sure. I seen somebody post on Twitter that this is the end of the post AEW media scrums, and it very well might
it won't be. Because WWE does them too. They're just not as free flowing as AEW does. And then to be honest, to be fair, I mean, and I'm not playing devil's advocate, but like, to be fair, that's one thing that set AEW apart. Like, I think that the post-show media scrums were getting a lot of things that you didn't really see in wrestling. But this is where it gets dangerous, because, again, I don't understand why sometimes people feel the need to have to bring shit like that up.
Well, to my last point where you were saying that did it overshadow or anything like that, at least, me, I may not always be paying attention. I'll watch highlights and catch the Twitter buzz and stuff, but it seemed to be what more people were talking about on Twitter after the event was not the matches, not the pay-per-view in general. It was about the media. So that being said, maybe you're right, Kyle. Maybe they don't necessarily step away from that completely or anything like that, but maybe definitely.
But I bet you they're watching the questions that get asked.
Yeah, maybe more, directed, I guess you could say, where it's like, hey, this is what we have next, 10 or so questions for this athlete, and then to the athlete, hey, we need poignant answers to these questions, and then on to the next question. We don't need you sitting here rambling for an hour, on to the next question.
Well, okay, so here's the question though. So I'm gonna show a comment that Joey's got. What do you guys say they do? Because, as we heard after this, a big fight broke out. How big of a fight, we don't know, because anybody saw it. But from all intents and purposes, we've heard that CM Punk dropped one of the Bucks, and that one of the other Bucks got hit in the face with a chair, and that Ace Steel bit Kenny Omega, and like, clearly, and I hear the cops got called, like, and all these things. Huh? Yeah, dude. Bad. So like, Cory, like, I don't know if you watched like CM Punk's whole set and everything he said, but dude, like I've seen probably a minute and a half worth of different
bits and pieces, but I didn't.
You
see
gotta
the whole
bro.
length.
Like when we get done with this, you need to go like watch it and like actually listen to it because it was bad enough to where like you can't stop watching it because you're just like, what the fuck? Like not only did that happen with the Colt Cabana shit, but then after that he goes on to shit all about the Hangman Page shit, and then after that, mind you, MJF is the guy who won the poker chip and is now going to face you at some point, and then he shit all over him too.
Yep.
Like, I mean, he literally just shit down the whole roster. That's not a way to endear yourself to a locker room as the champion.
No. And especially as a champion, you're the one that everybody's aspiring to beat. I guess you made a bunch of storylines, some built-in heat, that's for sure. But that's not the right way to go about it. That's for sure.
Well, and then like here's what Joey says.
Yeah.
I don't think you can get rid of them all. Number one, you got big contracts. That's not going to happen. Number two, especially with the Bucks being that tied up in a company, here's the thing. I mean, if I'm being 100% honest, if I'm the Young Bucks, if I'm Kenny Omega, apparently, if not even Kenny Omega, if I'm the Young Bucks, if I'm Hangman Page, if I'm MJF, if I'm Colt Cabana, when I see CM Punk, we gotta fight. Because, like, dude, like, he said some really fucked up shit. So I can't even say that I blame the Bucks for calling him out about that, because you did it in public on a media scrum, on a press conference, and you know that they were all still there. So, like, if you thought that that was going to happen and nobody was going to just be like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Now, the report that I read was that Punk was in his locker room. We already know he secludes himself from everybody, which is already a bad move, if you ask me. He's in his locker room. The Bucks and Kenny walk into his locker room, apparently, and here we are in said locker room 3-on-1. I mean, what did you think was going to happen? You know what I mean? Like, I'm sorry, dude. If not saying Punk did anything right, but if I'm one man and three guys walk in and start to confront me on some shit, I'm swinging for my life at this point. I ain't going down without a fight, dude. And luckily his boy was there to help him out. So it all on all parties, everybody. It should have been.
Everybody didn't handle it well. And I mean, I think what it all boils down to is like when Punk started going on that rant, like somebody should have stepped in like, yo, chill this shit out. Like, this doesn't need to be out in the public. But the problem is once you let it go like that,
dude, comes down to one man. It's Tony Khan. Get some balls.
I mean, Joey says they're EVPs. They could be let go at any time. But see, that's the thing. Now they've backed themselves into a hell of a thing because you've got contracts. You know that he signed Punk to a shit ton of money. You know the Bucks are making a bunch of money and they're tied up in being EVPs. But then again, like they spoke about on Busted Open and I've heard mentioned in other places, I mean, Tony Khan and his family own the Jaguars. You can't tell me that if the quarterback for the Jaguars got on a post-game interview and started saying fuck the Khans and fuck the Jaguars, that you couldn't be held in breach of contract. So we're going to have to see how much of this gets spun into a story. But I mean, dude, if there were ever a time in wrestling where you're like, well, you know, that shit ain't got anything to do with the show.
Yeah. Kyle,
this would be it.
What would you do at this particular situation, considering everything? If you're in the same seat as Tony Khan, what would you do? What would be your next move?
Well, if I'm Tony Khan, there's no way that you can't talk to CM Punk and not talk to CM Punk and be like, look, bro, like I understand you had some frustration with the Cabana thing, but he still works for the company. And, you know, again, we're talking about EVPs. We're talking about high-ranking people in the company, and you're talking about one of their top baby faces like that. Bro, like you can't just be out there shitting on people like that, especially as a champion, because if you shit on all these people in a press conference, here's the thing. Why do we as fans want to watch you fight these people if these people are, quote, empty-headed, dumb-headed fucks? Like you said, And on top of that, when you throw all the stuff in, it just doesn't make for a good working environment. It doesn't make for a good locker room. It doesn't make for a champion, to be basically shitting on everybody that he's got to go through, including the guy who just became your number one contender that night.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's not a good look.
Here's the biggest difference. Look at this. You got Tony Khan, you got Vince McMahon. How many times have you ever heard anybody say, I have the very last word when it comes down to Vince McMahon's WWE? It doesn't happen. And Vince made that the way it is. Vince had the last say, the final say, because he was the boss. Tony Khan don't have that. AEW is all about freedom, creative freedom. I get to express myself.
Hey, hold on, Donald. I disagree with Colt Cabana. He wasn't drawing money because he wasn't on TV, but Cabana
but you get my point.
Suck.
You get my point here. I mean, he's relatively new. We get that. Vince has been doing it since dinosaur age. But Tony Khan
should have to go to anger
management. He don't have that backbone to say, hey, I'm the fucking boss. You're going to do what I say that you're going to do. You're going to keep your fucking shit normal, or you're not going to work here. He's afraid to fire them.
Here's the thing, though. I feel like you almost don't have a choice in this point because, I mean, what job can you be at where you straight up get in a fucking fist fight and a motherfucker throws a chair at a guy and splits a guy's eye open?
Knocks a dude out.
Like that, you can't. If all the reports that are coming out from this fight are true, which again, I take this with a grain of salt because I wasn't there. But when the reports are that one guy got knocked out, another guy got hit in the face with a chair, another guy got bit, like that's not a fucking good. I mean, like you can't just do that shit. Like if I went to the post office tomorrow and said "fuck you, fuck you, fuck you," punched him, kicked him in the dick, and bit the other guy, guess what? I'm not going to be working there anymore.
Exactly. Now you could flip this. If they want to be professional about it and do things the right way, Tony Khan needs to take them all together and say, look, let's make some money off of this. You don't have to like each other. You don't have to get along behind the curtain, but go out there, make a good story, have some good matches. You mean to tell me if you got Punk versus Kenny or one of the Bucks, whatever the case is, in the same ring at any time, all eyes will be on that screen, dude.
Damn. That's a hell of a comment. CM Punk always said he didn't want to be like Hogan, and now he's worse. I mean, I don't know, man. As a fan of AEW, here's the thing. I don't understand how we got into such a place where wrestling fans are so divided to where it's gotten to the point where it's like if you're an AEW fan, you have to hate WWE. And if you're a WWE fan, you have to hate AEW. Like, I don't want to see AEW go anywhere because I think we can all agree that the competition that's been created by AEW being around has not only been good for the wrestling business, but has clearly been good for WWE because ultimately has proven the point that now that Triple H is back is in control, they realize some shit's got to change. Granted, we went through one hell of a roller coaster, which we talked about all at length about how we got there. I think having them both thrive is a good thing because you have a viable number two. But the problem is if you keep having shit like this happen, it's going to crack it right at its infrastructure. So I think, like you said, J-Bone, if they, if they do this well and can straighten stuff up enough to where they can all be professional and do what they got to do, like, yeah, we could get a great story out of this. But if this shit isn't nipped at the bud, dude, it's only going to get worse, dude. And I mean, I got to say, even though I think All Out was a great pay-per-view, I think it did a lot of good, obviously did a lot of good numbers for AEW. I do think that there's going to be a big black cloud that's going to be kind of looming over this with the whole CM Punk thing. I think when a lot of people talk about All Out, they're going to talk maybe not more, but just as much about what happened in the post-show press conference than what we saw in a show. And unfortunately, I don't think that, obviously that's not what you want.
Who do you think is going to be the first to bring it up on TV? It's going to get brought up.
At this point, how does it not get brought up? Like you can't act like it didn't happen. Donald, I don't know that I agree with you, like playing with daddy's money, because I mean they're a proven commodity in multiple teams. Between the Jaguars, the soccer team that Tony owns is doing well as well. I mean, they've proven that they can do their thing with money, but I mean, at the very least, you got to tighten shit up because it ain't good for a locker room. It's just not. And again, I'm not speaking from any kind of experience, but all I know is, regardless, just from a pure PR standpoint, it's not a good look. It's not a good look, and after all that shit that happened with you and Eric Bischoff, you're making Eric Bischoff look right. But at the very least, I have to say, between again the FTR and Wardlow match, I mean, there were so many great matches. I enjoyed the card. I thought the show was great. I enjoyed being in the arena to be there and get to experience it and all those great things. But obviously, we had to talk about that as well. But holy shit, dude, that wasn't even like all that happened. I've still not even made it like all the way through, like the UFC Paris card. I tried to watch it yesterday and I passed out. I've seen Robert Whittaker and Vittori. I've seen most of Sorogan and Tuivasa. And shout out to Tuivasa. Maybe there's power in the shoey. Maybe J-Bone's just too big of a pussy. But
Tequila shoeys, baby. Tequila shoeys.
Better hope that liquor kills all them germs.
Hot take. I'll put money that AEW is gone in 5 years. Damn it, Donald! Stop being a negative Nancy.
It's gonna be interesting.
Stop being a negative Debbie Downer. Damn it. But let's put a pin in AEW for a minute. What were your guys' thoughts on UFC Paris and what down with that? Cory, I know you were more in tuned in that. So since we've already been going for a minute, what were your thoughts on what we saw on this main card, bro?
Itching at the neck to get to my fight breakdowns of it. No, but since Whittaker and Vittori is what you kind of led with and what you were able to make it to, man, talk about Bobby Knuckles in there putting on a master class, man. He showcased why he was the champion, and before Israel Adesanya came in the division and kind of took it by storm, he was rightfully in that position because Marvin Vittori, if you look rankings wise, was the other number one contender that wasn't already matched up, being Pereira. And Vittori just had nothing for him, man. That first round was fairly even, but Rob Whittaker came out in his interviews and said that he just was kind of feeling him out and stuff and didn't necessarily turn on that switch until the second round. But man, once he got going and once it was really like the last 2 minutes of the first round on, it was just all his fight. It was just, classic Whittaker performance where he's darting in and out, using his feints, using his, even being the slightly smaller guy in there, man, he did an amazing job. He really, really did. I cannot undervalue his performance enough. I feel like given any other circumstances where Izzy wasn't the champ, or had he not already fought him with that first fight
and beat them both twice.
But I feel like that second fight was very close, and I feel like if that first fight
not saying it wasn't, but when you beat a guy twice, it makes it hard to give him a third fight.
That's what I'm saying, though, is that if that first fight had not taken place the way it did, if it was similar to the second one, if we were Kamaru and Colby type of rivalry where it was like that, I feel like Whittaker would be deserving of a third fight, putting on the performances that he has. But because of that first one, I think he's still going to have to do a little bit more. But, man, Bobby Knuckles showing why he's still at the top of the division, that's for sure.
So what do you think he does now, though? Do you think now he kind of just waits to see what happens with Izzy and Pereira, and if Izzy wins, he says fuck it and goes to 205, or do you think he's going to try to take another crack at that belt?
Well, me and you had the conversation, and I know it had taken you by surprise, and it did me as well when I had first heard him talking about it, possibly making that move up to 205. I feel like this fight was a perfect example of why he shouldn't. He was already slightly undersized against Marvin Vittori, who isn't even the top end of the biggest guys in the division. Marvin Vittori is a big dude at 185. Don't get me wrong. He's definitely up there, but Rob Whittaker was definitely the smaller guy in there that night, both stature and, frame wise. And if he was to make that move to 205, his speed would definitely get him some solid wins in that division, but I don't know if his speed would be enough to overcome some of the size that you see in that division. I mean, some of those
Eventually,
guys cut down
he'd
from,
have
like,
to get bodied size-wise.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's the move, especially when you talk about he used to fight at 70. I know he talks about, killing himself to make that weight back in the day, but, I don't think that's necessarily the move, and I feel like he's just kind of stuck, unfortunately. I feel like maybe we see, like, if Strickland gets another win, maybe we see him versus Strickland.
Strickland's gonna need a few, man, because he got knocked the fuck out by Pereira.
Yeah, you say that, right? But they were putting him right up against Cannonier, who Cannonier's last loss was Izzy. So that,
I mean, that's true, but again, that could be Sean Strickland being able to pick the bones, and Sean Strickland being able to pick the bones, get him a money fight, get him a win, and be able to bring his way right back into the title picture. You're right. I'm just saying that really kind of more to me paints the picture of more of the lack of depth at 185 than it does, Strickland really getting in a fight. Because I mean, if we're talking about this at any other weight division, even go down one weight class and say he does that at 170, he's got to win easily at least 3 or 4 fights to get back to a title.
Yep, but that's not the case, and especially when you're talking about somebody who's been skyrocketed towards the title shot in Pereira. It's different when you lose to those guys. It just is. I know what you're saying, and I agree with your tendency. You lose in the top 5. Normally, you have to at least win 2 or 3 good, solid wins to work your way back up into that number 1 contention fight. But I don't know if that's necessarily the case, especially with the kind of lightness of the division and the fact that Izzy, you kind of have like the champion 1, champion 2 where Izzy's beating everybody, and then also Rob Whittaker's beating everybody. So it's like it's hard to work up a legitimate number 1 contender because of the fact Rob Whittaker's still there. He's still beating all these guys. So it's rough. So that's where I feel like you could see somebody just kind of move their way around the shuffle, and I feel like that's what we're already seeing with Pereira. But last note on this fight, seeing Paulo Costa was calling out Rob Whittaker. If that's the fight that gets made, I wouldn't mind seeing it myself. Honestly, I feel like Paulo Costa doesn't deserve a number 1 contender type of fight yet.
No.
I feel like him versus the Strickland type would make more sense in my opinion. But that
100%.
being said, I don't necessarily know what's next for old Bobby Knuckles. I just hope to see him put on another quality performance like he just did in his next bout. I don't know if you got anything on that one, J-Bone. If not,
hey man, you covered it all, dude. That's why it's Cory's Corner up in here, dude. No,
if not,
like you said, man, dude put on a clinic, man. What can you say? Perfect fight for him, dude. Besides that first round, he got the feel for it and did his thing, man. Classic Bobby Knuckles right there. So not much more I could say about it.
And even in that first fight, man, or in that first round, he didn't even really get touched either. So it wasn't like he was losing or something along those lines. It was just you could see where the transition had taken place, where the momentum was fully in his side. But jumping into that main event, I know you hadn't seen it, Kyle. Boy,
well, that was what I wanted to ask you about, though, because, like, Bruce always be coming in here with some crazy shit. That's why some of his shit doesn't always make it to the screen. But hey man, sometimes I gotta cut shit off. Tony, sometimes you gotta
Tony Khan things? Oh no, he doesn't do that. At least you got some balls.
That's what Tony should have said. That's what he said. But with that being said, Gon's, I've got a bunch of comments here from in the beginning with Bruce. Gon's a dirty back of the head puncher, bro. He targets the back of the head deliberately. Gon has a finishing move, and it's the dirty back of the head punch. That's his finisher, WWE style. And then he went on to say how we're condoning the back of the head puncher by not condemning them. So what were your thoughts on the main event? And is Cyril Gahn a dirty back of the head puncher?
I don't agree with the analysis that he is a dirty fighter. That being said, I definitely peeped in the moment when he threw that like swinging.
That dark side of the ring was really dope, Donald.
I did definitely notice that, and I was like, oh, hey, you're definitely not supposed to do that to somebody's back of the head. I definitely noticed that and was like, hey, that's kind of frowned upon for sure. But I feel like the thing was, though, is he was already in a finishing sequence where I don't think that punch actually made the difference. If it was something where it made the difference, I would be stronger in your opinion. But with the fact that he was already being spun, already on his way down, I could see where you and the likes of JDS, former opponent of his, making that argument as well, that, hey, Cyril Gahn's kind of a dirty fighter, but I feel like he was just already in the mid swing. I feel like he was just swinging at a target and it happened to land on the head, but it wasn't necessarily what he was just throwing hands at that point. I don't think it was a targeted or a thought out process where he was like, hey, I'm going to hit him in the back of the head because I know it'll fuck him up in this position.
Well, like you said, I don't think it was even intended for that. It was just kind of like, let me get a punch out, you know what I mean? Type of thing.
Yeah, he had the momentum with the shoulders already going. You know, it's hard to, but either way, that main event had fireworks all over it. Like my little breakdown from last week had said, if Tai Tuivasa is able to circle him and keep him up against the fence and back him up and, you know, use his footwork to his advantage over somebody with superior footwork, which he was able to do in a lot of positions, man. Mm-hmm. Tai Tuivasa did an amazing job for somebody of his size, his stature, everything like that, being the shorter man in there with the less reach and stuff. He was really doing a great job of getting in, getting out. It honestly, if it wasn't for those body shots, I feel like that was what made the difference, was those body shots in the later rounds, man. You could just see where it was starting to really eat on him. And after probably the fourth or fifth straight stab to his stomach, man, because those were knives going in.
Wasn't it almost like he was like trying to punch through him? It was just like, dude, guard your body. He's just taking it and taking it and taking it. Like eventually you're gonna collapse, dude.
Well, I think Cyril Gahn was trying to set him up for that head kick, which he was able to land later on as well. But I feel like that was the big thing. He was trying to set him up in those positions. And shout out Tai Tuivasa, man, for showing all the heart in the world. He did not give up on himself in many positions where he definitely showed that his body was wanting to. He definitely looked like a man that was on his way out on multiple occasions and dived his head, dodged one shot, and landed a haymaker back. You know, like when he dropped Gahn in that, I believe it was the second round, I was like, man, is it Tai Tuivasa fucking won the fight?
Yeah,
holy shit!
I thought it was over. I thought it was over.
And for Gahn to show what he was able to show in that fight, because he took quite a few shots as well, man. I don't feel like he deserves as much praise, I guess, for this fight, because I feel like he could have fought smarter. He could have done a better job of circling out, not gotten hit. But he did show a lot of heart as well. And he really did showcase some really good skills in there, man. And he was able to, for such a young fighter in his career, I know he's not the youngest guy in the world, but in the heavyweight division, he's fairly young at 32, if I'm not mistaken. But his MMA career, he's only like 4 years in.
Cory, we're not that far from 32. We can't make these guys sound that old.
Yeah, but when you're professional athletes, you got to be younger than me now, or else you are old. You know, that's the name of the game, unfortunately.
You shut the fuck up. 30 to 32, most men are getting in their physical prime, so fuck you.
Yeah, but you tell that to all the NFL teams out there releasing everybody this week saying, oh, you're 31.
Fuck them. Well, okay, fuck them too.
But back to the main event, man. Real Gone did an amazing job of spotting openings when they were presented. Like I was saying with these knifing kicks to the midsection and stuff like that. Anytime that he would trick Tai Tuivasa into keeping his hands low because of all the shots, and immediately a head kick would smack him upside the head. Or as Tai Tuivasa normally does, he keeps his hands high and throws these bombs. As soon as he does that, you're hitting him to the midsection. He just did such a great job of spotting openings as soon as they were available, and that's really what it made the difference in the fight, more than the footwork, where I thought what was going to originally win the fight to begin with. So, shout out both guys. I don't feel like Tai Tuivasa.
That's upsetting. You know what? I wish you would have become an Olympic gymnast too, because damn it, you know, I realized that I wasn't going to fight in the UFC and boxing. Now I just run and flap my gums about it. But you know. Like I said, I've been flapping my gums a lot about Circle 6, and, you know, Jake Christ is already speaking very highly of our chat with Mr. Christ, headed into the hybrid ladder match that's going down this Friday at Circle 6. So if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you check that out. I mean, dude, we've gone another hour on top of what we already had going on. There was a lot of shit that we had going on. We talked about AEW. We talked about UFC. We talked a little bit about Clash at the Castle. I mean, hot damn, dude. I think we covered the gamut. I don't know. My jaws are tired at this point. My jaws are tired, and I wasn't even the guy that saved somebody from a burning car.
My back is broken.
Yeah, mine too.
And what happened?
Yeah.
What were you trying to practice the ladder bumps in your sleep? I mean, if I were in a hybrid ladder match that's going down this Friday, I could see why my back would be fucked up. You know, but here's $1 million question. Cory, are you coming to Circle 6 or what?
Yeah.
All right. Cory's going to be in the building. D-Mac's going to be in the building.
Cory, you gonna be there? You gonna be there?
Yeah.
Holding them up, dude. Holding them up.
Stick them up. Stick them up.
I got a busy weekend thanks to the boys at Knockouts and 3 Counts.
Yeah.
And Megaran's in town. Megaran's in town. About to tear shit down on September 10th. Who knows? Maybe we could see Megaran come back to the show real soon. You already heard it. That's why, like we say, you never know who's going to show up in that box. Shout out to the boys from Five Finger Death Punch on their new album being out and killing shit and doing their damn thing. Well, you know what? I have flapped my gums for long enough on this motherfucker. And if you haven't already done so, make sure you hit that subscribe button if you're listening on the podcast platform, like our friends from Chicago who were sitting next to me at Effy's Big Gay Brunch. I appreciate y'all. Make sure you hit subscribe button on all them bitches. And once again, shout out to our sponsors, G3 Payroll and Tax. If you're going to get yourself together for the tax season, Jack and the homies at G3 Payroll, Tax, and Accounting will get you together. I mean, I know where I'm going for my taxes. So you need to do the same. Go check out G3 Payroll. Tell them Knockouts and 3 Counts sent you. And you need to make sure that you're at Circle 6 Catalyst this Friday, because if you don't, I got a feeling I'll be coming back here Tuesday and making you wish you did. So until then and in between time, peace.